Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the F1 Word for Midweek Live. Wow, that chat filled up quick on screen. I don't know what was going on there, but there we go. How is everyone in chat? Everyone good today? Ready for a bit of a debate? Because it was an interesting weekend. Some stuff happening earlier today, which I'm not going to discuss too much. We'll do that in Q&A, I'm sure. But before I get started, we are going to be talking about the lack of overtaking at Albert Park over the weekend and the proposed possible changes. I don't think it'll happen, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Also, what we think can be changed post 2021 onwards to improve overtaking. We'll take your questions at the end, and I'm pretty sure the VSC will come up at some point. Hello to everyone in chat that's saying hi, by the way. That is awesome. So, you know what I'm going to do now. I'll go over all the housekeeping. You can follow me on social media. Links are all in the description down below. You can also support the channel on Streamlabs through the super chat function, or if you want to do it a bit more long term, you can do so over on Patreon. Right. I will start off by introducing my two guests for today's stream and start off by saying hello and good evening to Chaz. Are you there, Chaz, mate? Say hello to Chaz.
Hello?
Yeah, it's just me being silly. Are you all right, mate? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. How is everyone?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Have you just about recovered from the weekend? Just about?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was a long one, wasn't it, mate? It was enjoyable, but it was a long one, definitely. And we'll also say good evening and hello to Alex. How you doing, mate?
Hello. Everything's good, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, not bad. Did you have a good weekend of it with the F1? I know you were streaming quite a bit through it and whatnot. So
yeah, I mean, getting up early is always a bit of a pain in the arse, isn't it? But it was right.
It's just good to have F1 back. We will jump on to the main topic then, really, and that is the should we be polite and say the sheer lack of overtaking at Albert Park. A grand total after the first lap of 5. That's 5 overtakes so that's 57 laps worth of racing, 5 on-track overtakes. Frankly, Chaz, mate, that's just not enough, is it?
No, it's definitely not enough, especially considering they added a third DRS zone to try and improve the overtakes, and it didn't really make any difference. I will say, I think the race was definitely better than last year's, but that's not exactly an achievement, is it?
No, because last year's was pretty dire as well, wasn't it? It wasn't exactly a belter, but what do you 5 overtakes? It's quite a specific track, isn't it, Alex? It's not really representative of anything else on the calendar, really.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but the thing is, what makes you think about it is there have been good Australian Grand Prix in the past. I guess we're just in that sort of era of F1 cars now, which they got so much downforce, so much grip. It's going to be tough to overtake on a lot of the tracks anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. They've gone a little bit. They changed the 2017 regs for the aero in a bid to improve the show, and they've actually somehow managed to make it worse. Last year's race, there were 50% fewer overtakes in 2016, and were there more? I couldn't actually find this out. I don't know if you know, Chaz. Were there more overtakes this year than last year? I think there were, weren't there?
Yeah, there were. I think last year there might have been 2 or 3.
Wow.
I think it was the Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Alonso battle. That was the only real overtake in the race.
Yeah, we're laughing, but I think that's more out of probably aspiration than anything, because you spend 3 months without Formula One, and you hype it all up as a YouTuber throughout the winter, and then it arrives and everyone's going, well, that was rubbish. There were some good points in the race, though. To be fair, it's not all about the overtaking, but it's kind of what we watch racing for, isn't it? To be honest, Alex.
Yeah, like you said, I think I was a little bit caught up in it at the time. I didn't feel like it was as bad as a race as it. Like, I've gone back and watched it again, and I was like, oh god, this really was pretty bad. But yeah, you got the battles out on track. Seeing Leclerc do well in his first race was pretty good. Good as well, beating the Williams. I think small victories. I'll take it in the Australian Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think you have to when you have a race like that, don't you? There's not really a lot else you can push for. But it was Ross Brawn that came out this week and said the Australian Grand Prix lacked the vital ingredient vital ingredient, understatement of the year, of overtaking. In fact, there were just a total of 5, as I've already said. So that's bad. But then Max Verstappen comes out and says that he would have turned the TV off because the race was, I believe he said, worthless as a spectacle. I mean, come on, Chaz. When the drivers are coming out saying that and they're driving around at 200 miles an hour, you've had a bad one, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think on Friday, I think it was Verstappen and Ricciardo or just Verstappen said, we're not going to do any overtakes in the race because we can't follow. So, and I think a couple of drivers said it in pre-season. So the drivers know that they can't overtake. So that's why they're giving it so much in qualifying.
Yeah, hence, probably Bottas's mistake there as well, really having to push that hard. But I mean, what can be done, honestly, about Albert Park? Because the problem we've got is we can sit here and say, well, if we do this to that corner and that to the other corner, the truth of the matter is we can't go pouring concrete into the lake, and you can't go knocking down the existing buildings down the side of the racetrack. There just isn't any room for expansion. The only thing I thought of was up at turn 11 and 12, turning that into a tighter chicane. I know Christian Horner came out and said tightening turn 1 would work as well, but I don't know what you guys think about that one. Start with you, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like it is for so long now, isn't it? I don't feel like we talk about like classics in history and people not wanting them changed. I guess this is sort of an example. You sort of give it a little bit of leeway because it has been F1 or has been around motorsport for so long. I don't know. I don't think that it's like you said. It's a one-off track. It's like not one that we go to every weekend. So as long as we get to Bahrain, which maybe is not going to be amazing, but in terms of overtakes, that should be a little bit better. So I personally don't feel. Is it Bahrain next, by the way?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just like, but yeah, as you say, I don't think Australia is that representative. So I don't think you should go pouring in, you say, concrete into the lake to make sure it's a better race. But
what about you, Chaz?
I don't think the track should change. I don't see how or what kind of corner you could really change at that track to make better, because it's not like a racetrack like Bahrain. It's a street circuit. You can't really do that much with it, I don't think. And I like the high-speed nature of it. Yes, of course, it doesn't provide overtakes, but that's just the way it is.
Do you think, maybe I don't know, but do you think it kind of gets away with not getting as much flack as other racetracks because it's the first race of the season? We've not had Formula One for 3 months and kind of any race will do.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll say so, yeah. Some people, including myself, were just happy to see cars racing each other. And even though it wasn't an amazing spectacle, it's much better than most weekends when there isn't anything on.
Yeah, I'm just so happy to have it back. I'm a bit like what you said, Alex. During the race, me and Chaz were doing a little bit of a watch along and we got right into it, didn't we, mate? We really enjoyed it. And then I watched the replay and I was like, this is bad. This is not a great race. So maybe there you go. But if you're not enjoying the race, maybe get Chaz on Discord and chat to him through the race. It makes it a bit more interesting. So there's not a lot really Liberty Media can do before 2021 now, is there? Because obviously the regs are set. But what can they change 2021 onwards, Chaz? Is it just a case of cleaning up that aero, simpler wings and whatnot?
I don't think they can do anything till 2021 because I don't see, considering we're about to change the engines again, I don't see any real point in changing the aero until then, because you're going to say if they change the aero for 2020, you're changing the rule, you're changing the aero for one season, and then Formula One is going to massively change again in 2021. So I don't think there's any point in making any big alterations until 2021.
Yeah, like I said, they're just tied down, aren't they? There's not really a lot they can do. I mean, we talk about it quite often, don't we, about cleaning up surface aero, simpler wings, getting rid of all these bits hanging off the cars, but it's... what else can you do? I mean, I cannot think of anything else to make... I mean, you could make them narrower, which would definitely improve the overtaking because they can actually get alongside each other, but...
I think it's because we all grew up in such a, maybe not privileged area F1, but, where there was not much downforce, cars were getting sideways out of, each and every corner. There were lots of overtakes. And even though we had the same guy winning many world championships over that period, there were still pretty decent races in there. But, as aero is developed over the years, it sort of, in a way, has dulled the racing somewhat.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think we were spoilt for so many years, weren't we, really, in terms of overtaking and action. And it all seems to have coincided, though, Chaz. You kind of had this, the engines got quieter when we moved to the hybrid era, and all of that kind of thing. And then obviously the bad lack of overtaking turned up. It's all kind of happened at once, and I think it's kind of exaggerated each of the issues, hasn't it, in a way?
Yeah. I think since 2014, it's just gone massively downhill. Because in hindsight, obviously, they've made a massive step in the wrong direction with the way Formula One's going, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's whether they can get that back on track before they lose too many fans, because 2021's a long way away. You know, it might not seem it in some ways, but in Formula One, that is a long time. And
do you think that they sort of... Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, do you think they struggle because they have some teams obviously wanting to go down the route of, I guess, like maybe Red Bull, they want all the downforce possible, all of the, you know, crazy new technology, but then maybe you have some other teams out there that just want to have like a good, simple race out there. They're sort of getting pulled both ways, maybe, the FIA, so it's hard to choose a good middle ground.
Yeah, maybe. And I suppose when you've got teams as well like Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull that are going to be so vocal and so demanding in there, they're always going to get the weight of the FIA behind them, aren't they, over, say, your Force Indias, your Williamses and your Hasses, for example.
Yeah.
A little bit frustrating in that respect, the way the Formula One power works. But I suppose at the end of the day, you know, if you think about it from a business sense, kind of wandering off topic a little bit, but if you think about it from a business sense, Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull are huge draws to the sport commercially, aren't they? So
keep the big boys happy.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's how I've done it for years, though, isn't it, Chas, when you think back?
Well, it's the only way that works if you're going to keep all the big teams in Formula One.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's worry with Ferrari post 2021 is the pull they have on the sport. I mean, I've said it a million times. I don't think they'll go anywhere. I think it's all posturing at the moment. They are presenting, I believe, Liberty and the FIA and whatnot are all presenting the blueprint in Bahrain, aren't they? To teams, which I'm really looking forward to that week because the live streams are going to be interesting and there's going to be a bit of kicking off, I'd imagine, because it's really going to get tasty. We said the early part of the season, didn't we, Chaz, was going to get properly tasty politically.
Yeah, because they need to decide on these the rules and where F1 is going very quickly.
It's got to be sorted. They've got to get these cars developed. So I suppose that's why there's so much talk around this overtaking business that we didn't see in Australia. You know, what's got to change on those cars? And like I've just said, you know, second time I'll say it, aside from simpler wings and getting rid of the bits hanging off the car, there's not really a lot more they can do, is there?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's when we had the best F1 races, it was when cars were like that, you know, with that simple aero. So unless they come up with something crazy, I mean, cars.
Yeah, you know, they added the third DRS zone, didn't they, on for Sunday's race? And I don't quite understand why, if they're going to add a third DRS zone, just allow drivers to deploy it when they want. You know, and that way, I don't know, I don't like DRS. Everybody knows I don't like DRS. I'd much rather see something like KERS that a driver can deploy strategically through a race and like a push to overtake button effectively. But we just, as fans, what's frustrating is as fans, we want to see great racing. Everybody in chat will want to see great racing. Everybody watching F1, that's what they tune in for. They don't tune in to watch somebody overtake under VSC or somebody have a spin or Charles Leclerc to overtake Lance Stroll. That sounds really harsh on both of those drivers, but that's not. People are tuning in to watch the proper racing at the front for the championship, aren't they? And if we're not getting that, you can understand why, when you look at the figures, people are turning off.
It's like how do you draw new fans in, especially when that is what you're. Well, one of the pinnacle races of the season, really, isn't it? That's when most of the people are going to be watching. And if it's a crap race, they're not going to tune in for the rest of the season.
It's true. I mean, like I say, me and Chaz talked loads over the winter. We've talked as well, Alex, stuff on all of our channels to try and hype up the season a bit, and we're all pumped for it. And then it turns up and makes us all look like idiots, quite frankly, doesn't it? But so what needs to change then, Chaz, to seriously improve the show, overtaking, just in general?
You need to change the aero of these cars. Simple.
You see us going back to V10s, or do you think we're more likely to just get the same basic aero, these hybrid engines, and some more gimmicks like DRS, KERS, stuff like that?
It's going to be... I think we should go back to simpler aero. Thinking about it now, I don't quite understand why these new aero rules came in, because effectively they came in to make the cars look prettier, but then they put the halo on, and all mechanics, designers down the pit lane were saying the same thing. These cars will not be able to follow, and this is the result.
That's what I still don't understand. They had people on the FIA, including Ross Brawn, not on the FIA, but Ross Brawn's input in it, and a lot of people's input, ex-engineers, saying, I wouldn't do that because that's going to make overtaking worse. And as the FIA and whatnot always seem to do, they ignored everyone's opinion and the facts and just carried on and pushed ahead with it anyway. And yeah, the cars look pretty. And like you say, they're going to strap a halo on it. So, I don't know.
I kind of like the IndyCar model. I mean, I know they adapted over the last couple of years, but they have, for this year at least, gone for a much simpler aero package. And even that first race, which wasn't a street track, that was still an entertaining race. People, were making mistakes. People were getting past each other. And also the push to pass thing that you talked about earlier. I think that would honestly be quite interesting as well. Maybe you had like 20 for a race. And then, as you say, the driver would have to make that intuitive decision about when he actually wants to overtake, or at least attempt it.
Yeah, a lot of people draw the comparison to IndyCar and say about bringing things over to Formula One, and why not? I mean, Liberty are American based, I guess you could say, so there's no reason why they couldn't take ideas from over there in that respect. But
I know you don't want a direct copy, so to be fair,
yeah,
but like you're saying, the push to pass thing was a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch a lot of IndyCar. What I do see, it's quite enjoyable. I do quite like watching it, but I'm an F1 boy. That'll never change. So but aside from aero and little bits like that, there's not really a lot they can change to improve overtaking. It just comes down to the driver. But people talk about leveling the playing field. Effectively stock parts on the cars, and everyone gets the same front wings. And can you ever see that working, Chaz? I can never see Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull accepting anything like that.
Anything like what, cars?
No, things like stock parts on cars, so everyone gets the same front wing, everyone gets the same rear wing.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. No way. No way that's going to happen, because these teams, especially the manufacturers, they're very, very greedy, and for good reason, because they want to win.
Yeah, and doing stuff like that, obviously it renders the likes of Adrian Newey kind of useless in a way, doesn't it? There's no, if you're going to get a basic car and then you just stick your own engine in the back, it's not going to really work, is it? I just can't see it. And, whilst that would be great for Force India, for Williams, for Sauber, because it'll keep the costs down, it just takes that competitive edge away from the front of the field, in my opinion. And also, it's yet another area we're not going to see development. And that, for me, is where F1 is massively lacking at the minute.
Yeah.
So we kind of want it both ways, F1 fans, don't we? We want the crazy, awesome cars which have loads of downforce, but we also want the overtaking. But I guess, like with the stock parts thing, that would at least make... I know it's probably never going to happen, but it would at least make the racing better, wouldn't it?
I guess, if nothing else, it would make it cheaper for the midfield team so they can put a bit more money into other areas, can't they, I suppose? So, I mean, obviously, let's not forget there are some parts on these cars that are pretty much generic throughout, certainly inside in terms of some of the electronics. So it's not unusual for stock parts to be on these cars. But, yeah, I just, like you say, we're F1 fans. We're a little bit, I think we're frustrating to people because we want change. We want change. We want better overtaking, better racing, but not if it means changing the sport. It's like you could change it, but don't change it too much. It's, yeah, on the subject of change, actually, the FIA graphics and whatnot on TV over the weekend, I found something today that's pretty much another source on Reddit that pretty much stated that after fan reaction to this Heineken hot lap and whatnot and this 4-minute silence, Liberty Media apparently abandoned the idea to do them during the race. Now, it doesn't sound like a big thing, but I take that as quite a positive because it sounds like somebody somewhere is listening. And
I never really understood this. I'm sorry for being a bit silly here. Did they stop at some point in this race and play music? I pretty much had the stream muted so I could do my live stream?
No, from they were going to apparently, and then it got changed,
okay.
and because of fan reaction, because people were not happy. I
Okay.
mean, don't get me wrong, the idea of David Croft shutting up for 4 minutes it's heaven.
I know.
But it was a bit ridiculous, and they realised it. So I think from what I understand, the things like the Heineken hot lap and that are now going to go into, like, when you see your highlights on YouTube, they're going to get
Yeah.
put on there instead rather than live during the race. So it's just us moaning Europeans again. I think that's what it comes down to. But
It's good to at least have the choice on YouTube. That's the good thing, isn't it? Because I mean, some people like to click on a video and just dislike it anyway. But at least there's that choice. At least there's that choice on YouTube if you want to click on it or not. If it's forced into a live broadcast, it's just, once again, it's going to be another thing that turns some people away.
Yeah, definitely. We do need to talk about it. I'm not going to say an awful lot on it because I'm just bored of the flack I'm getting. But the virtual safety car on Sunday, it's caused a bit of a stir. We'll not talk about why or what the reasons are or how it all works. Does it need to change, Alex? Do you think they need to maybe change this, and what can they do to change it?
This is going to be another thing of me sounding a bit silly, but so is it technically that the pit lane isn't part of the track, so you can go pretty much as quickly as you want?
I think from what I understood was that the pit lane is obviously slower than those on track when they're doing the virtual safety car delta anyway. But the pit entry from first safety car line to pit speed limit line, and then from pit speed limit line to second safety car line, they can drive as fast as they want. It's kind of exempt from the delta. To me, the obvious solution, I don't know about you two, is just simply say that the pit entry and pit exit are also part of the virtual safety car delta, and then problem solved.
Like, just use the whole track at the same delta, or have like a speed limit that you can't exceed. As you say, it's a pretty simple fix if you think about it logically.
What do you think, Chaz?
I don't think so, because let's look at it. The virtual safety car, the reason it was introduced was to make sure that the marshals, when they recover a car or some debris, could do it more safely than they did before, because under double yellows, the drivers were still going way too quick. So that's why they brought out or introduced the virtual safety car. And let's be honest, the pit lane, because of the speed limiter, is pretty safe anyway. So no, I don't think it should change. And you can have the same issues under the safety car. It happened plenty of times under the safety car in the past. So I don't see the reason it should change.
No, it's fair enough. I just think if the argument's going to be, it was bought in, it neutralised the race, nobody gains, nobody loses out. I can't understand why the pit entry. I've never understood, and this is why I don't like the virtual safety car. I've never understood why pit entry and pit exit is exempt from it. It's still part of the racetrack. Do you know what I mean? I can understand. Don't get me wrong. It's great. Safety cars and virtual safety cars, they're fantastic because they throw up another version of strategy, don't they? Something to take advantage of. For example, if the virtual safety car doesn't come out, Vettel finishes third, but if Ferrari take the gamble, they could win the race because a safety car could come out or a virtual safety car. But that pit lane entry and that pit exit, to me, should not be exempt from the delta. It should be that, that is the speed wherever you are on the track.
If there was a crash on to the opposite side of the pit wall, for example, how would that work? Because surely you can't have cars flying past on one side and going slow on the other.
I've never really thought about that, to be honest. It's to be fair, if I sit and read through the rule book, there's probably rules in there that kind of cover that one, because what they like to cover it all, don't they? But it's just one of those things as well. And I know, Vettel fanboys were livid at Lewis Hamilton last year. Hamilton fanboys are livid at Vettel this time. At the end of the day, all 20 drivers on the grid at some point will benefit or lose out from a safety car, virtual or otherwise. I think the biggest frustration for me, Chaz, and I've said it in my video because I had to name you because we were sat watching it together and you said that needs to be a safety car. And 2 laps after the virtual safety car's deployed, they have to bring out the safety car anyway. So I think that was the frustration for a lot of people, is why not just bring the safety car out straight away?
I think it's because they were trying to recover it without closing the field together, so they didn't destroy not just one person's race but everyone's race and advantage. And I think because of the virtual safety car, the one good thing about it is you can try and recover cars and slow the cars down and get them off the track without having to bring out the safety car every time. So
Yeah.
I think it is a good thing in that sense.
The Mighty Dash just answered your question, Alex. If a crash was on the start-finish straight, the safety car takes the cars through the pit lane. Yeah, it does. I remember now, but
Okay.
that's obvious now I think about it. But yeah, I mean, you're right, Chaz. I mean, it does save the safety car. But my final point on this, and it is going to be my final point on this, if the racing is the way it is at the minute, where, you know, we're not getting a lot of overtakes, it's not very close, is it not better to just bring out the full course safety car and bunch the field up? Yeah, it ruins 20 drivers' races, potentially, or half the field's races in terms of strategy, but at least from a fan's perspective, we get a nice bunched up field and some good racing again.
You could say that, but then again, what if it's a race where everyone's close anyway, and then you ruin it by bringing out the safety car? And if you have, I don't know, a Renault or a Force India by some miracle leading, and then you bring the safety car, and then Hamilton can close up and just win the race. So there is pros and cons.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, just to kind of, I don't know, make me a bit of a hypocrite in a way, or to contradict my point, but I suppose as well, the point is it bunched up the field in Australia and made no difference at all. So, you know, there is that argument as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, is there anything you wanted to add on virtual safety car, Alex, or normal safety car?
Not really. I mean, I suppose the one thing with going virtual safety car, then safety car, is a couple of people really lost out from it, didn't they? Was it Hulkenberg? I feel like was ahead of Alonso. I feel like Alonso gained a lot of time through it playing out like it did. Obviously, so did Vettel. But as you say, it sort of could ruin some races that are built up already if you go full safety car.
For me, the safety car certainly exaggerated Alonso's position. I think it's fair to say, Chaz, I'm going to start, maybe I'll upset Alonso fans now, but that's it's just the way it is. But he wasn't really, apart from being close to Renault, he wasn't on the pace of Haas. That McLaren really wasn't anywhere near them. They weren't anywhere near Red Bull. It's only because of the VSC and the Haas retirements that he managed to make it to fifth.
Yeah, exactly. And I think who else? I think it destroyed also Raikkonen's race as well, because he was definitely going to get P2, in my opinion. I will say, though, if anyone can remember, obviously we had the Vettel and Hamilton, you know, Vettel coming out ahead. We actually had the exact same situation in 2012. What was it? Both McLarens pitted at the same time. They stacked. The safety car came out. Vettel was in the lead, and then Vettel did the exact same thing. He got to the pit entry line, pushed right up to the speed limiter, pitted, came out, and jumped Hamilton. So it's not just a virtual safety car problem. It's just the way the rules work.
Yeah. It's been the same for years as well. It's like I say, it's not just virtual safety car. It's the same for the standard safety car. Ever since it was introduced, teams managed to find a way to exploit it. The thing is, though, ultimately, as I try not to go off on one again, that the truth is that whatever the rule is, whether it's safety car, virtual safety car, this aero rule, that engine rule, teams will always find a way to exploit it to their advantage. It's Formula One. It's kind of what they're paid to do almost, isn't it, to be honest? So, yeah, I mean, I'm over it a little bit now. It was a bit of a frustrating one because I'm not a virtual safety car fan. Nothing to do with, you know, Hamilton fanboyism or Vettel fanboys or anything like that. It was just I'm not a fan of the virtual safety car, whoever gains from it. But it's just one of those things, as with other things in F1, that I'll moan about consistently throughout the season. You'll all get sick of me, but I'll still bloody tune in every other week. It'll not stop me watching. So, yeah, it was, you know, it's just, I've said it before, it's just great to have F1 back. It's nice to be able to discuss and debate these controversial, if you like, topics, isn't it? It's not, you know, this is why we love F1. There is so many different points of views, and you never get shouted at for expressing your own. We try not to on this channel. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, so you know, fair enough. But all in all, Australian Grand Prix, Chaz, if you were grading it out of 10, what would you give it?
4.
Yeah, Alex?
Jazzy, you nicked my number. I was going to say 4 as well. I'll just go 5, just to be different.
I was
Yeah,
going
it
to
really
say
was a
around 5.
spectacle.
But I think probably a few in chat now, they're all starting to give theirs. Racing says 3 out of 10. I think the reason we've said 4, 5 is probably because it was the first race. Had that been 6 races in, we'd probably given it a 2 or something like that. But looking forward to Bahrain though. It does usually throw up a pretty decent race, doesn't it, Chaz? It's not usually too bad.
Yeah, it normally, throws up some overtaking chances and some close battles. I think last year, if you remember, I think the top 6 cars before they all made their first pit stop were separated by about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a closer track. And I think no doubt we are going to get a better race in Bahrain because the braking zones at that track, you can dive from far back at that track. In Australia, you can't really because there's just not enough room to do that.
Yeah, that's true. And, we got China as well that follows it a week later. That's not usually a brilliant race, but it's not the worst of the year. My issue is, and I wanted to have a moan at somebody, and we've got a couple of minutes before we jump to Q&A, so I may as well. When these people come up with the calendar and they sit down and do it, why are they so insistent on putting boring racetracks back to back? Because after Bahrain and China, we've got Baku, which, unless we get another crazy race like last year, will be another 2016 Baku. We've got Spain and then Monaco. That just sounds like 3 of, apart from the glitz and glamour at Monaco, that sounds like 3 of potentially the most boring races of the season, pretty much one after the other.
Yeah, it's not great. It's definitely not great. But then again, once we get after Monaco, you have Canada, Austria, Silverstone, Hockenheim, the new race in France. So we'll see.
I saw this article a few months ago. I think it was about the British touring cars at the time. It's just like how uninspiring the calendars are because they're the same year after year after year. I think it would be kind of nice. I mean, I know certain tracks have to go in certain places for reasons, but it would be nice to have maybe just a different race at the start of year from time to time. Like Brazil used to be at the start of the year, remember correctly, or one of the first couple of rounds.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like it's all just been plonked down like in 2011 or something. It just hasn't really changed much since.
I've got a feeling it probably comes down, I don't know for sure, maybe they've confirmed it somewhere in the past, but I think it probably comes down to money as well, because logistically you may as well do all your flyaways together, then your European race and your flyaways. But, I remember going back 98, just for some reason in my head there, you went Australia, Brazil, Argentina, and then back into Europe. There was nothing wrong with that. It's nothing, if you have your flyaway races back to back maybe, and then go back into Europe and mix it up a little bit, it'd be a bit more interesting. It's just a few in chat saying you get, or I think one actually, I think it was Jonathan said, but then you get Canada after that, them 3, and it makes up for it. That's kind of what you were saying, Chaz. Are you very much then, Chaz, on the, we'll just have to grin and bear those 3 and look forward to Canada onwards?
Yeah, I definitely think we'll get some good races before Canada, or a couple at least. But I think if you're looking for an absolute definite good race, Canada on until probably Monza, there's going to be 3 or 4 great races.
Yeah,
I personally I'd agree as well. I think maybe the next 2 are the best until we do go to Montreal. I don't feel like Baku, as you say, unless it's a crazy race like last year, Baku, Barcelona, Monte Carlo, they're sort of all pretty, I don't know, boring, to be fair, in general. They don't produce many overtakes, but I'd say definitely Bahrain's going to be decent.
Monaco is just pretty much a procession, isn't it? Unless you get a safety car or a little bit of chaos somewhere. It's not, you don't often get a belter there, got 96, but I don't know.
Hopefully it rains.
Yeah, rain in Monaco. That guarantees excitement and a bit of fun. I mean, I guess one other point as well on tracks. Are Formula One a little bit too reliant on their history, if that makes sense? Do they need to, Liberty Media, FIA, need to sit down and just be brutal and say, that track doesn't give us great racing, that track doesn't give us great racing. Doesn't matter if it's Monaco or China, if it's not great racing and the track is no good, it has to go. That's a no.
I feel like quite a lot of the bad tracks are sort of newer ones. Just kind of, well, I suppose except Barcelona and Monte Carlo, but Baku, Shanghai,
Russia.
Yeah.
Oh, Russia, don't.
I mean, Singapore is not great. I don't.
No, go on.
Oh yeah, I was just saying Mexico as well. That was a bit of a poor race last year, except from the start.
I think when it comes to the historic races, I think you have to keep them because if you want to maximise the commercial side of Formula One, you have to keep tracks like Monaco, even historic races like Hungary. I mean, I know in terms of a country, it's not as booming as the United States or anything like that, but we've had great moments at these tracks, and if I think we shouldn't jump the gun in terms of saying let's go to some new race tracks because, as Alex said, there's been a lot of new tracks that have come to the calendar which have been absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I mean, there's a couple of examples, aren't there, that they didn't last. I assume they tried to bring them there to get some new fans, like India and Korea. They spent a couple of years in the calendar and then they went.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just a thought. Just maybe they will in 20, 30 years' time. But like some people saying in chat, Monaco's part of F1 history. It is the jewel in the crown, isn't it? That's fine. But aside from the commercial side, it's not great for racing or on-track action at all. So, but I guess, yeah, your point, I suppose, stands really, Chaz, and that is that at the end of the day, it will come down to the money, won't it? And that's a money raker. So,
maybe everyone could put in the chat, just as an idea, maybe if they were to take 3 tracks off this current calendar, what would they take off? That might be interesting.
ST is going to hate you for that. He's absolutely going to hate you for that. Yeah, go for it then. 3 tracks you remove. You don't have to put the ones you replace them with.
So I'd answer that. I'd take off Russia, Baku, and Abu Dhabi. And then, because realistically, for realism, I'd replace Baku because that's late April, isn't it?
Yeah.
Baku.
Yeah.
I'd replace it with another race that used to be in late April, Imola.
Oh, Chaz.
I would replace Russia, which I think is taking place in September, with a race or a track that used to do races in September, the Nürburgring.
Yep.
And this might sound weird. What I'd do is I would replace Abu Dhabi with Turkey, but I'd move Turkey to August and then put Brazil last and kind of mix and match it around.
Brazil should be last.
Yeah.
It guarantees you a crazy race because it's a lottery in terms of weather, so it just makes sense to have it as a title decider. But unfortunately, Abu Dhabi pay out the backside to host a final race. But I can't really disagree with that. Russia, Baku, Abu Dhabi, I think they are the 3 worst. The only thing I'd never do with the calendar is put Silverstone in April again. Didn't work. That was very, very bad.
When was that?
Was it 2000? Racing will remember. He'll tell me in chat in a minute. I think it was around 2000. They moved it to April, and
2000.
Yeah,
that's probably why I don't remember.
Look out your window right now, and that'll explain what happened in April at Silverstone. It was absolutely dire. But yeah, let's hop into Q&A, seeing as everyone is already spamming the chat. If you want to pop your questions in, we'll answer as many as we can. But yeah, I'd love Brazil as the final race of the season. There's no doubt about that. Look at what we got in 2012.
Yeah.
What a race that was. Incredible. So.
By the way, I'm sorry. I realise how much chat's gone crazy from me asking that question, so I apologise.
It's all right. What are the pit boards for? Says Victor or Victor Philo. I think they're kind of now just a fail-safe if the radio goes wrong, aren't they? More than anything now. But they used to be massively important because they had all the information you'd normally get over the radio on them. So
I guess it's just key info now, isn't it? I guess probably like lap, who's in front and behind. It's probably as simple as that.
Yeah, pretty much now. It's will Max bounce back in Bahrain? Says Sam Hurt. Yeah, I think there'll be a few drivers that bounce back and shut us all up that have criticised him over the last few days. Max will be one of them. Disappointing for him. Chaz, did something break on his car or not? Because I've got conflicting information. Some are saying that something did break on his car and then he spun, and then others are saying that he spun and then something broke on his car. I don't know if you've heard anything.
I'm still kind of hearing that there may have been a mechanical issue, but I don't know where he could have picked it up though, because I think he had it before he spun. Because if you watch the race back, he corrected the car a couple of times where it looked like he was going to spin, and then finally he did spin. And his spin at turn one was weird because his car already spun before he even clipped the turn one curb. So
Just that's a really, really weird spin, wasn't it?
yeah, I don't know. Did he pick up on the grid? Did they drop him off the jacks too hard? Did he clump over the turn one curb too hard on lap one? I don't know.
It's weird because when we were watching it, he was almost round before he got to the corner, wasn't he? He was kind of already...
He lost the car before it even got into turn one.
A lot of the chat saying he broke the floor.
Okay.
Early on. But
that makes sense.
I don't know, that's just people seeing different things.
But I don't know where he could have done it though. Because I didn't see like a moment where he, really
They would have shown it, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Razor Official says, which up-and-coming top driver would settle to be a number 2? That's a brilliant and harsh question all at the same time.
Van Dorn?
I don't know why. I'd probably go Ocon because I think Ocon isn't like in terms of his attitude. I don't think he's Verstappen like where he's very aggressive. And we saw that on Sunday when I think Bottas passed him. He was very giving in terms of his position because he just let him go through, basically. So I think Ocon.
Yeah, my thing with Ocon is when you listen to him, particularly after testing, you very much got Perez going, car's not good enough, not what we want. And then Ocon was quite happy to give the correct PR answers. And that, to me, does... it sounds bad, but reeks of somebody who will do anything to keep the team happy and PR happy. But I
do you think he's just doing this to get the Mercedes seat?
Maybe, yeah. I'd say Leclerc, and that's not going to go down well. But if he ends up at Ferrari as Vettel's number 2, it may end up being just the way things go for him. Whether he'd be happy, I can't imagine that any driver's happy to be a number 2. Victor Philos says, and he's donated as well, thank you very much for your contribution, mate. He says, where would you like to see Verstappen in the future? Ferrari for me.
Ferrari.
I agree.
Kind of match made in heaven there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. TM Way 84, after the Haas pit stop errors, do we think the lollipop guy may make a return? I think that makes sense to me.
We've had quite a lot of problems in the pits the last couple of years, haven't we? To be fair.
Yeah.
When did they get rid of that? It feels like that was like 2009 sort of time. That's my.
Yeah. Because it was easier to do the lollipop then. Now it's kind of impossible because of how quick the pit stops are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. By the time he's got it down, it's time to lift it up again. So, but yeah, I don't know. There's something needs to change there. It's not good enough. You said it, didn't you, Chaz? In the debrief, it's not good enough at this level at all.
No, to happen, as a pit crew for that to happen twice, it's not good enough.
Stop Hammer Times Table. Great name. If Daniel jumps ship to Merc or Ferrari, will he accept a number 2 role? He may have to.
I think if he goes to Mercedes or Ferrari, if he actually goes to those two or one of those two teams, he'll only go if they promise him that he won't be the number 2 driver. I don't see him playing number 2. For number 2 drivers, it depends on the personality of the person. They need to be kind of not too bothered about it, or you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Ricciardo would get very bothered if he signed for Ferrari and then he's moving over by race 3.
I mean, you saw how annoyed he got at Verstappen last year, and that was when he wasn't even in a championship battle.
Yeah.
In Hungary, sorry, I should point out that. Obviously, when they came together.
I wonder if that's what Hamilton was sort of not warning him of, but just kind of telling him to be cautious of in that press conference when asked whether either of those want him as a teammate, when he was saying, don't upset the people that you're with now because you might have to stay, Does he want? I can't. I don't want Ricciardo to be number 2. This doesn't strike me as a number 2 driver.
So many.
If he was, go on, mate. I was just gonna say, if he was a number 2 driver, then he wouldn't have beaten Vettel in 2014. They wouldn't have let him.
Unfortunately, we have got so many good drivers on the grid right now. Unfortunately, some of them are going to end up as number 2s. But as you say, maybe it's just from year to year. Maybe we don't know right now who will end up as those drivers.
It's going to be an interesting few months, isn't it, for the driver market? Just watch see for missing all the questions there. How close will Ferrari be in Bahrain? Asks Soccer Legend. Go on, Chaz. How close do you reckon Ferrari going to be?
A lot closer to Mercedes than they were in Australia, because I don't think Australia suits the Ferrari car really at all. I think in qualifying, it'll probably be between 0.3 and half a second. Probably half a second because of Mercedes' engine mode. But I think in the race, it's going to be a 4-way battle. And strategy is going to be very, very important. And I think Ferrari may come out on top because of the superior tyre wear.
Mr. Laserton says, do you think F1 is becoming too American? You can have that one, Alex.
I don't think so. I mean, of course, having American owners is going to be some influence, but I actually kind of, I don't know what exactly he's referencing. I guess some of the stuff that they introduced, like the Heineken lap or whatever, but I mean, I like the introduction of the new graphics and that sort of stuff. I think, being more modern, really, it doesn't, just because it's modern, it doesn't mean it has to be called American, I'd say.
Like I said earlier, I like the fact they seem to be listening because they've already changed the graphics for Bahrain and they're going to have the tyre information on there. The font's going to be bigger and things like that, so they're already addressing it. So I kind of like the fact they're listening. I don't like the Heineken hot lap and stuff like that, but if that's the way the sport goes, that's the way it goes. If it brings the money in and it means the sport survives, great. Yeah, but I just like the fact they're listening, to be honest. Do you think Liberty will succeed in selling this to the USA over the next 3 years without tweaks?
No.
It's a very European sport, isn't it, in its image and everything. So I think it does need... It definitely needs work, doesn't it, Chaz?
Yeah, definitely.
Soccer Legend, Bahrain 1 or 2 stop, hopefully a 4 stop. At least a 2, surely, in that heat.
Yeah.
Morty says, how seriously should we take Haas this year?
Seriously.
Very.
I was completely blown away with it. Like, we had all this hype from freezing testing, and then I was like, wow, they are really good here. So, yeah, probably 4th best team right now, aren't they? Well, definitely.
I was just going to say, Chaz, do you think they're 4th fastest at the minute?
Yeah, I think they are. And I think in Bahrain, they haven't got a penalty for Bahrain, have they? I think they've just been fined.
It is a fine, yeah. I said during the race, I was certain it was a 10-place grid drop. But obviously that's changed somewhere. So is it a $10,000 fine?
Something like that. Well, that's lucky for Haas because this race, Bahrain, this is probably going to be one of their best races of the season in terms of performance because it suits their car more than Australia. And yeah, I actually think they'll be not too far behind Red Bull, like half a second maybe.
It's the Renault engine versus the Ferrari engine as well, isn't it? So
yeah,
Haas should be quicker in that respect. I'm not going to say too much on Haas and Force India and whatnot. I've got something ranty coming about that soon. So yeah, that'll piss a few people off. But can we bring back refueling to increase strategy? Option says no, Mo static. No, it won't happen.
No, it won't happen because, especially with Formula One going green, they're not going to bring back refueling. No way.
And the safety as well, isn't it? Like, I remember the last year we had refueling, there was it Raikkonen in Brazil, the flames and fuel getting in his eyes and all that sort of stuff? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we don't need that back. As much as it would make it a little bit more interesting, I don't know whether it's worth the risk anymore.
A couple of people just put it in chat now. I do need to address something from my last video, which upset quite a few. So, I just need to address it. Obviously, two of the best drivers on the grid were the brothers' last name from the weekend. I missed them off in my race review. How could I miss them? Sorry, just thought I'd get that out there. It was Jos Verstappen in the Benetton. That was a nasty fire in the pits.
Oh, yeah.
A few now asking about the amazing battle between last name and last name. It was close, very close. Martin asked, should we have the halo in driver livery? I have to say, when people talk about how you can't see the drivers in the race because of the halo, I was like, oh, don't be ridiculous. You really can't.
No.
It really is quite difficult.
Especially from the front view. I mean, the T-cam is not great, but I suppose you can at least see their helmets. But with the car coming towards you, it's just completely obstructed.
Do you think putting in helmet design, Chaz, is a good idea, or is that just going to make them stand out even more?
I don't think they should do the helmet design. I think what they should just do is paint the halo the same color as the car, because I think the halo looks a lot better. Like the Ferrari halo is probably the best looking one because it just fits in with the rest of the car.
I've seen it a couple of times now, just asking about Sauber's pace, and then somebody's just mentioned the battle between Sauber, Williams, and Toro Rosso. Actually, looks like a proper close battle on the grid, that one, between those three. I'd possibly argue Sauber are quicker.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some talented drivers in those teams as well. I mean, Gasly, I guess you'd say, Leclerc, Stroll possibly could be getting there. I mean, some young guns there that keep battling out for proving themselves.
What do you think, Charles? It is a very close battle, isn't it, between those three? Or seems to be.
Yeah, it's definitely a close battle. I'll be honest, I don't know who's going to win that battle because they've all got, but they've got pros, but they've also got some very bad cons about their car. Like the Williams doesn't have any downforce, the Toro Rosso doesn't have any reliability or engine power, and the Sauber.
It's a bit half and half of both of those, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the Sauber, it's kind of just, I think aerodynamically, it's kind of just basic compared to the higher teams on the grid, but that is going to improve because of the increased Ferrari and Alfa Romeo backing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on Williams, I gave Lance Stroll a lot of credit after qualifying because that lap he pulled out in Q1, I know we've been critical of him over last season, but that lap in Q1 was a very good lap to get himself into Q2. And he was all right in the race. The problem for me is he was consistently outpaced by a car that we thought was going to be back of the grid.
Yeah, that was surprising. I just want to mention something. I'm just trying to find it now. It's a quote from Stroll about Williams' race, and I thought it was quite surprising. It was something about how they were racing. Like, we weren't racing, we were... Oh, what was it?
Picking up sandwich bags.
I'm trying to... It was something like, we weren't racing, we were just driving around or something like that.
I mean, to be fair, he got overtaken, so...
Yeah. Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for Sirotkin because obviously he got a lot of flack when he got that Williams seat, didn't he? And everyone was like, oh, well, let's see how he performs in Australia. And amazingly, people are already saying, he wasn't quick in qualifying and he only lasted 6 laps. It's like, well, yeah, but that wasn't his fault. It's not like he put it in the wall. We have to give him a chance.
Give him till Monaco,
I'd
say at the earliest.
What's that, about a quarter of a season more? Well, ish, yeah.
Yeah.
I did see a question a minute ago, but John Hodgett says transparent halo, maybe polycarbonate. I can't see that working. I know it's trying to come up with an idea to make them better looking, but unfortunately, there is just nothing. There is just absolutely nothing we can do.
I think I've been very, very positive about the Halo, but even it did get to me in the first race a little bit.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't say I'm over it, but I'm already sort of looking at it or watching the races and not really focusing on it. If that makes sense, I know it's there, but I'm not really looking at that. I'm watching the racing, quote unquote, and enjoying stuff like that. Cool. I don't know. It's one of those things that we're stuck with. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do. So the best thing we can do is just look at it and go, that's disgusting. But hey, at least that car nearly overtook that one. Will Bottas move to Ferrari in 2019, Alex?
No, I don't think he's probably going to be in either of those top 3 teams. I kind of feel, unless he really steps up, but it wasn't the greatest weekend to start off this year, especially.
AKJW says, so does that mean that Gasly will be on 2 MGUHs for 20 races? It will do, won't it? I'm not sure what he had to change, Chaz. I don't know if you've seen.
I haven't seen either. But I do know that Toro Rosso most likely will be taking a penalty in the next 4 races, I think.
That's insane.
Probably at Baku.
I'll be honest, and if anybody in chat didn't think this, you're lying. But I think we all kind of accepted Toro Rosso were probably going to take a good few penalties this year, didn't we? Even with their pre-season testing reliability, that was very cold. You look at Australia, a lot hotter, and straight away there's an issue. I mean, it may just be a fluke and a freak incident because, sometimes cars do, don't they? But I can't see them getting through fewer than maybe 7 engines this year, to be honest. I don't know whether that highlights the fact Honda are terrible or how bad the rule is, but at the end of the day, I would be very surprised if Mercedes used more than 3 engines. So,
it's embarrassing, isn't it, really? But what can you do, really? If the rules are like they are, it's going to just restrict them for a long time. 2021, I guess.
I'll take a couple more questions from chat. Kater says, has Haas got good because of a Maserati deal? As far as I know, that deal never happened, did it, Chaz?
No, I don't think it has. I think why they've got good is because they gave up on the development of the 2017 car as we got to summer break. And I think we're probably the earliest team to start developing the 2018 car. So I think that's a big part of why they are where they are.
Yeah. Honda should just leave and come back in 2021. This is Alberto. I don't think they'll leave and come back in 2021, but I think if they haven't nailed it by the end of 2020, I don't think they'll come back. I think that'll be that.
Yeah.
What do you think of spec engines? Nah. It leveled the playing field, but again, I can't see Mercedes, Ferrari going for that one, to be honest.
It's like the reason Mercedes are in it, really, is just to promote their technology, isn't it?
Yeah.
So why would they take the one thing away that they're really in there for? Has the mechanic been fired? I assume not.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but it looked like they were pretty...
He hasn't. Haas came out and said that they're not firing anyone.
It'd be harsh, wouldn't it? Because as bad as it is, and as unacceptable as it is just... It's not the mechanic's fault, is it? It was a cross-threaded wheel nut, so there's an issue somewhere else as well. So,
but then again, you could argue that they shouldn't leave the they shouldn't let the car leave.
Yeah,
no, that's true. Yeah.
So
they were waving, weren't they? Or was it just the automatic thing?
They were waving to say, "Don't let it go."
They let it go anyway, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ford cars with spec engines, problem solved. Again, I can't see Mercedes popping a Ford engine in the back of their car or Ferrari. Then you definitely lose your manufacturing the sport, wouldn't you? Which might give us better racing because it's all a bit more equal, but you're losing your biggest draw to the sport. I'm just looking for a question to finish on. I think we're going to go with that one from Cater, and it says, does the FIA need to rewrite the rule book to make it more simple. I'm going to finish on that one because it kind of ties into what the stream was about, and also we have mentioned a few times about bringing new fans into the sport. If you are a new fan to the sport, Alex, it is quite complicated, some of it, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's even highlighted in a simple way just by the number of tyres. That straight away just would put a lot of people off, being like, oh my God, there's all this to learn. And then if you look even further into the rule book. So I think I would agree with that point. I mean, obviously there still needs to be some very technical parts of Formula One, which draws in that audience as well. But yeah, I think a slightly, at least simplified rule book would make for better racing and probably increase fans.
Yeah. What would you say, Chaz?
Yeah, it's definitely too complicated, especially compared to a few years ago. And I think if the regulations and the rule book was like it was in 2010, those cars were pretty simple. They had no KERS, no DRS, no refueling, one pit stop a race. I mean, even though that was quite boring, but those were probably the most simple regs I can think of. And I think if we had regs like that, then it would be a lot easier for new fans to follow, because it's those watching those races, it's quite, you don't have to really learn about how the engines work or the DRS or, the energy systems and all those stuff, type of things.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with both of you. On those points, I think it is overly complicated. The tyres, a few people mentioning, I don't understand why we don't just have a medium, a hard and a soft option rather than a super hard, super flaccid, mixed soft, extra, whatever. I have no idea. I don't know why they have to do it. It's all to make the show more interesting. It just causes more confusion, more for new fans. It's not confusing for us because we kind of get it. But yeah, we will leave it there though, lads. Thank you very much, Alex, for joining us on today's stream. We'll hopefully get you on again in future.
Yes, it's been fantastic otherwise. Thank you for inviting me.
Yep, and there is a link to Alex's channel in the description down below. Go check out his videos, particularly his ones on abandoned racetracks. It's I know it's blown up, hasn't it, mate? But it's a really good video.
A little bit crazy, yeah.
So thank you very much, mate. And same to you as well, Chaz. Thank you for joining me once again.
Yep, thank you. And also thank you to everyone watching in the chat room as well.
Yep, there's also a link to Chaz's channel in the description down below as well. Lots of content, almost daily, aren't you, at the minute, Chaz? So
yeah.
You're crazy,
I will be
mate.
taking a break soon, though, because I'm absolutely knackered.
Yeah, get a break in before Bahrain, definitely. But yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks.
It's all right.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you to those guys there. Yeah, do go check out their channels. They're linked in the description down below. Also in the description is a poll, which is for you guys to have your say on what content you want to see over a race weekend. So if you are watching, you could just click on that for me and post your vote. That'd be brilliant, because I'm going to close that on Friday and then get ready for Bahrain. Also, if you're watching, if you could smash a like on the video, that would be fantastic. On the stream, it would be fantastic. I've only just realised apparently how important likes and whatnot are. So if you could do that, that would absolutely mean the world. Thank you as well for the awesome support on the channel over the last few days. It's just absolutely blown up now the season's got going. But yeah, it's to be expected, I guess, with the season the way it is. I will be back tomorrow with another video, which might get a little bit ranty. So I apologise in advance for that one. But in the meantime, of course, you can follow me on social media. Links to Facebook, Twitter and Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.